Now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. None went out, and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, See, I have given Jericho into your hand, with its king and mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all the men of war going around the city once. Thus shall you do for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, every one straight before him. So Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said to the people, Go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass on before the ark of the Lord. And just as Joshua had commanded the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord went forward, blowing the trumpets, with the ark of the covenant of the Lord following them. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing the trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark while the trumpets blew continually. But Joshua commanded the people, You shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout. So he caused the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going about it once. Then they came into the camp and spent the night in the camp. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. And the 7 priests, bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord, walked on, and they blew the trumpets continually. And the armed men were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking after the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets blew continually. And the 2nd day they marched around the city once, and returned into camp. So they did for 6 days. On the 7th day they rose early at the dawn of the day, and marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. It was only on that day that they marched around the city 7 times. And at the 7th time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. And the city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent. But you, keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing for destruction and bring trouble upon it. But all silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown, and as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. Then they devoted all in the city to destruction, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkeys, with the edge of the sword. But to the 2 men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, Go into the prostitute's house and bring out from there the woman and all who belong to her, as you swore to her. So the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and mother and brothers and all who belonged to her. And they brought all her relatives and put them outside the camp of Israel. And they burned the city with fire and everything in it. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury house of the Lord. But Rahab the prostitute and her father's household and all who belonged to her, Joshua saved alive. And she has lived in Israel to this day, because she hid messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Joshua laid an oath on them at that time, saying, Cursed before the Lord be the man who rises up and rebuilds the city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn shall he lay its foundation, and at the cost of his youngest son shall he set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. So I know that's a long passage, but basically it summarizes like this. They walked around the city for 6 days. The 7th day they walked around 7 times. The trumpet sounded, the people shouted, the walls fall down, Israel saves Rahab and her family, and the Israelites take the city. There's 3 things I want to bring out with this passage. The first thing is, if you noticed in verse 2, it says, And the Lord said to Joshua, See, I have given Jericho into your hand. That's past tense. as if it's already been done and they hadn't even started marching yet. Then you go down to verse 6 and you read that Joshua said, "Take, bear, or carry to the priests, and go and march to the people." Joshua had faith in the Lord. He trusted his word. He hoped in his word. He had confidence in his word. So Joshua acted without fear or in spite of it, with courage, and instructed Israel in what they should do. Point number 2, in verse 25, it says that Rahab never left Israel. And I see her as an example of complete repentance, a 180-degree turn. She left behind Jericho's God, and I believe she served Israel's God as a stranger in the land. There's a verse about that kind of stuff in Leviticus. It's Leviticus 19:34. It says, "You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." So not only did Israel save her because of her saving the messengers that were the spies, but she stayed with them for always. It was pretty cool that she stuck it out and served Israel's God instead of turning away a little while later after being saved. The third point is, if you remember that passage where it talked about all the devoting to destruction, on the surface, it seems really, really harsh to destroy all the women, all the children, all the oxen, all the sheep, all the donkeys with the edge of the sword. But Deuteronomy 20:16-18 is the key to understanding this. It says, "But in the cities of these peoples that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance, you shall save alive nothing that breathes, but you shall devote them to complete destruction, the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, as the Lord your God has commanded, that they may not teach you to do according to all their abominable practices that they have done for their gods, and so you sin against the Lord your God." Israel took a covenant oath that they would have no other gods before the Lord Most High. That is why everything must be destroyed in Jericho. The Lord knew their hearts, that they would be tempted. It is no different for us today. How many times will we take the temptation instead of devoting it to complete destruction and so not sin against the Lord?